So we've been talking a lot about HTML, and we've even written some, and some of you may never have worked with it before, and that's okay. We're going to go through the very basics of HTML right now and see how it all works. So I have running a text editor. Mine happens to be Sublime Text, but you just need to open something that saves text. So on a Mac, you can probably use TextEdit. On Windows, you can use Notepad, or you can go search for Sublime Text and download that and follow along exactly as I am. So I have an empty file here right now, and I'm going to type one word into it, hello. And I'm going to save that, and I'm going to save it on my desktop. You can save it wherever you want, but I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it index.html, okay? So you can call it whatever you want, but end it with .html. So I save that. Now on my desktop, if you look over here, I actually have one file, and it's called index.html right there. Now I'm going to go to my favorite web browser, which happens to be Firefox at the moment. It changes periodically, but at the moment it's Firefox, and I'm going to open that file. So I go to my desktop, I find index.html, and I open it. And there is the word hello. And that is all web pages are. They're just text files. Now they have the extension .html, but really they're just text files. So we need to tell this web browser how to render the page that we want it to render. And we do that using special tags called HTML tags. So let's go back to our text editor, and let's get rid of that word hello, and let's just write the old school HTML. HTML is an opening tag, and /HTML is a closing tag. So this just tells the web browser, and this isn't the correct syntax, but it's what we used to do back in the good old days of the internet, back in the late 90s. You tell it HTML is the starting tag, here's where my page begins, and HTML/HTML is the ending tag. And in between that, we actually have two sections. One is called head, and it has a closing tag, /head, and one is called body, which I can't seem to type at the moment. Body, with a closing tag, /body. Okay, so I have this now, and if I save this, and just go back to my web browser and reload it, I have nothing, absolutely nothing. Now let's go back into the head section here for a minute, and let's give our page a title. And a title tag, not surprisingly, is title in pointy brackets. And I will call this my nice page /title to end that tag. So now I have my HTML. I'm going to indent this a little so it's more nicely formatted and we can follow what's going on. We have our HTML tags wrapping the entire page. In our head, we have the title tag, like that. So let's save that, go back, and reload our page. Now, look up here first. It's a full path name to where that file lives. When I reload the page, that changes to my nice page. So that's all that the title tag does. Now, the body is where the body of your page actually exists. So I am going to type a word here. Type several words. This is the page title in the body, and save it. So I have that text with nothing around it inside the body tag. There's the start, there's the end. When I reload the page, I get this is the page title in the body. Well, that doesn't really look the way I want it to look. Well, we have certain tags to do certain things. We have one called the H1 tag, which is heading level 1. There's the beginning, and now I need to give the ending. So when I save it, that will actually change the way that this text is displayed. It makes it look like a title. Now, an ugly title, but it is a title. Well, what if I just want to have text underneath it? Let's say I want to put some text in here. I could just type, this is some text, and the web browser, once I save this, is smart enough to say, okay, well, that's just text. But technically speaking, you should wrap this in a tag that gives the browser some indication as to what kind of text it is. P stands for paragraph. So opening tag, closing tag. And I'll put a period in there because I like to be grammatically correct whenever possible. Now when I go back and save it, the only thing that's going to appear to have changed is it added a period. But you actually have the correct syntax for this. And there are other tags we can put in here. We had H1. Let's try H2. Level 2, H2. H3, level 3, H3. H4, level 4, H4. So I've just put 3 more title tags in there, levels 2, 3, and 4, which are H2, H3, and H4. And every one has an opening tag and a closing tag. So I save this. I go back and reload the web page, and there I have different levels of headings. Well, that's kind of cool. What if I wanted to emphasize some text? Let's just copy this and paste it in here a few times, just so it looks a little more text. Let's say I wanted this word to be bold. Well, I could use the B tag, which is what we used to do, B for bold, and that will still work. Reload, and you can see that that text is bold. But in modern syntax, in HTML5, which we'll be talking about shortly, we actually use the strong tag. Strong. In the same way, if I wanted this to be italicized, this entire sentence here, I could, in the old days, I would go I for italics and /I for ending italics, and that still works too. You can see that this is bold and this is italicized. But the correct syntax, the modern syntax, is to use EM for emphasis. EM. And it won't change the way that it looks, but now it's grammatically correct. And if I actually view the source on this page by going to the View menu and choosing, I don't even know where it is anymore, I just always type this keyboard shortcut, you can see that what I'm typing here is rendered by the browser as HTML. This is what it's seeing. Now it's giving me an error up here because this is no longer the correct syntax, but we'll get to that momentarily. It's not a big deal and it's easy to fix. Let's look at a few more things first. Well, one of the most common things you can see in web pages is how to set up a link. So let's say I wanted to link some text. I'll create another paragraph here and I'll give it a closing tag here, and you can see that they're on different lines, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. Actually, I'll show you something else too. This is and I'm going to type a whole bunch of spaces, link to a university website, UNB, the University of New Brunswick. And I want the acronym UNB to link somewhere. So let's save this. And notice all those spaces there? Look what happens when I load the page. It ignores those spaces, and it just defaults to one space between words. And that is the way that web browsers typically do these things. If you want more than that, there's better ways to do it than trying to hit the space bar. So never try to position something in HTML by using the space bar. I'll show you the correct way to do it in a little while. But I want this to be a link to UNB. Well, let's find UNB. UNB, I happen to know its URL is https://www.unb.ca. This is where I did a couple of degrees. So I want to link to this. So I'm going to copy this link. That's how you get there. That's called the Uniform Resource Locator, or URL, or sometimes URI, or web address, but I call it URL, and so does pretty much everybody else that works in this space. I want to link there. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to get rid of these spaces because they're not doing anything. Change it to 1. And I want this to be a link. And we want this to be a hyperlink. And for reasons that I've never entirely understood, it begins with A. And I've never bothered to look up what the A stands for. So pointy bracket A, and then the hyper reference, href is the keyword, equals, and then in single or double quotes, but I like double quotes and I like to be consistent, so I use double quotes everywhere I can. I paste that URL. And then I close the quotes, close the opening tag, and then after, or right where I want the link to end, I put a /A to close the A tag. So when I save that, you'll notice the only thing that's going to be linked are the letters U, N, and B. The period won't be linked, and neither will the words before it, because the tag wraps what I want that link to be. So I save it, go to my web browser, close this window, reload it, and now it is a link. And I can roll over it and click on it, and it takes me there. And I can use the back button to get back. So that's how links work. Now there are some other things that we need to be aware of as well. So far we can make a title, we can make titles of different levels, we can make a strong text or a bold text and italicized text, we know what a paragraph is. Sometimes you want to make a list. Well, let's make a list. And there are two kinds of lists we're going to look at. The first one is an unordered list, which has an opening tag and it has a closing tag. And in between, we have list elements. So I could just type things in here and stuff will render on the page, but I want it to render with a bullet in front of it. And we do that by saying list item, LI, list item. Item 1, LI. Item 2, LI. Item 3, LI. And if I save that and go back and reload the page, there they are, nicely indented. That's the default formatting. We have complete control over the formatting, but we'll get to that when we get to cascading style sheets. There is an unordered list. What if I want an ordered list? Well, I'm just going to copy this. and I'll paste it below it, and I'll change that UL to an OL, and the closing tag to an OL for an ordered list. And I'll reload that. And now I have a list, but this time it uses numbers, and it formats them using number period, which is the default styling. And again, we have complete control over that. We can actually change that to whatever we want, and we will before too long. Now, this is HTML, but this is not valid HTML. It doesn't conform to the actual standards that HTML is supposed to use these days, which is, at the moment, HTML5. I'm going to go to Bootstrap. Bootstrap.com. We went here much earlier in the course and we copied something, so let's go to Get Started. And let's copy this link the same as we did last time. And we'll put it right where it tells us to put it. Copy, paste the style sheet link into your head before all other style sheets to load your CSS. So we copy that. We go back to our HTML. We don't have any other style sheets, so in our head section, we put this link. Then we go back and we actually reload the page. And you'll see what happens when we put that CSS in there. Oops, wrong one. Reload. It changed the styling of everything to default Bootstrap styling, which doesn't look much better at the moment, but it will by the time we're done with it. Well, we're not finished yet. We still don't have valid HTML. Let's go to the documentation on the Bootstrap site, and let's find a starter template right here. And look at what they have. Before the HTML tag, they have doctype HTML. Well, let's copy that and put this before our HTML tag. And what that tells the browser is that we're using HTML5. That's what this means. Then they had language equals English. So let's copy that and replace our opening HTML tag with what they have. Save. Then they have these required meta tags. Well, they're required. Let's put them in. So I'll copy them. I'll even copy that little comment at the beginning. I'll talk about that in a moment. Where did they have those? Right at the head. So right up here, before our title, we'll paste in that text, and we'll format it properly so everything looks nice and readable. All this is a comment. Pointy bracket, exclamation mark, dash, dash, then a space, then whatever you want your comment to be, then dash, dash, closing pointy bracket. That's something that's ignored by the web browser. So that's just for us, a note for us, just like comments in source code. So now I have that. Good. What else do they have? They have the Bootstrap CSS. Good. Well, it looks like that's all of it. They have this jQuery stuff that I'm going to ignore right now because that's JavaScript, and we're not talking about JavaScript. So I have this. Now let's go back and reload our page once again. Here's my nice page, and when I reload it, it looks exactly the same. Well, what did we go through all that effort for? We went through all that effort because some of the things we just added, like, for example, this declaration or doctype declaration, that is used by every modern browser out there to decide how to render the actual HTML pages down here. And this meta charset UTF-8 allows me to put characters other than standard ASCII characters like ABC 1, 2, 3. I can put other characters in there and they'll show up properly. They won't show up if you don't have that declaration meta charset equals. Viewport says content width equals device width. So make this page as wide as the device that's looking at it. Initial scale, don't zoom it. Shrink to fit is no. That makes this page work better on every device out there. So you might be hitting this web page from a phone or a tablet or a computer with a 28-inch monitor. And this helps the browser to know how to render the page. All right. Now, we've included Bootstrap. In the next lecture, we'll start looking at how to use Bootstrap and how to make things a little more attractive. And we'll start putting some pictures on our page too. But that's enough to get us started in any case.